Hello students, welcome to AP Environmental Science, or as we like to affectionately call, EAPS. In Chapter 1, we're going to be talking about the scientific process, as well as some environmental concepts. So with the scientific process, the first thing that you really have to do once you've identified a problem is to develop a hypothesis. This is the answer to your question, essentially, and what is going to help you guide your experiment. The problem with your hypothesis is that it can never be confirmed or rejected by a single experiment. You need to have multiple sets of data, to really confirm or reject your hypothesis. However, it's easier to prove something wrong than to prove something true. This is why we develop a null hypothesis along with your original hypothesis. So you can at least reject the opposite. It doesn't disprove your original statement, but says that at least it's not wrong. So another part of experimental design is how we interpret our results, or how we gather our results. You need to have a replication of data to really have reliable results. So the method of collecting data should be accurate. So what do we mean by accurate? Accuracy is how close the results are to the actual number. Also, each time an experiment is done, you should have similar results with each one of the trials. That's referring to precision. Precision is not the same thing as accuracy. Precision is how closely related the results are to each other. So as an example, if you're playing soccer and you're consistently hitting the left goalpost without scoring a goal, then you're being precise, you're not being accurate. So in order to determine whether or not your results are accurate, it's really important to have a standard curve. The standard curve will have points that you can relate your results to. If your results do not fall on that standard curve line, then you really can't be confident in those results. And therefore, you can either reject or not reject your hypothesis. So here's a case study. There was an observation that the organic insecticide chlorpyrifos may have had an effect on our central nervous system. So the hypothesis for these scientists testing this observation states that this insecticide will cause neurological disorders and have a negative effect on human health. As you can see, they've also developed the null hypothesis because it's much easier, as we said before, to disprove something than it is to actually say this is true. So in that opposite hypothesis, or the null hypothesis, they've simply stated there are no observable negative effects on the central nervous system by chlorpyrifos. So the experiment is outlined here, and as in all experiments, you must have an experimental group as well as a control group. That experimental group is going to be exposed to the chemical. That control group is going to have the exact same conditions but without the chemical. So using their results and replicating those results, the scientists were able to have confidence in their results and confirm that hypothesis that chlorpyrifos does have a harmful effect on human health. The importance of doing these kinds of scientific studies is to help us make decisions on human health. So as a result, the EPA has prohibited the use of that chemical for residential use, which is on our lawns, as well as agricultural use, which is what produces our food for our consumption. What are some unique challenges? There's definitely some unique challenges in environmental studies. One of them being the lack of baseline data. If you're doing field research in environmental science, you really have nothing to compare those results to because we don't have a control Earth. Another problem is being able to be objective with our results. Sometimes decisions have to be made with subjectivity, which are basically making value judgments. Is this going to be good for our environment? Another complication is interactions within the environmental system. Ecosystems are very complex. There are multiple, if not thousands, of interactions within an ecosystem. And one of those interactions is with humans. Our human behavior and how we use our environment is very complex. So it's difficult in this sense to identify what the problems are and then how to fix those problems. And the last one is human well-being. We have multiple limited resources that we need and use on Earth. So how do we make the decision of who controls that resource and how we use it and for what purpose we're using it? Those are some of the difficulties and challenges with environmental science and studying environmental science. The next time we're going to look at the second half of chapter 1, which is referring to some of those environmental concepts, including sustainability of our resources and how we use those resources.